So we have been having some really peculiar weather. Not that I should be complaining, but we've had quite a few weeks of really, really warm days and then really, really cold nights. So the plants have had a bigger spurt because of the warm weather during the day, particularly tomatoes and things. And then the nights get really cold, so you can't really put them out, and they're getting long and thin and spindly. And then we had some kind of calmer weather where it seemed like the night temperatures were picking up, and then just all of a sudden the nighttime temperatures plummeted. So just when I was going to put my tomatoes out, I put it off. But today they are definitely all going to go in because they are struggling. And I've seen people that have put their tomatoes out and they're really, really long and straggly, and I don't think they're going to survive. But anyway, if I keep them in the greenhouse any longer, they are probably going to walk out on their own accord. So they're going to go in, and if it gets cold at night, I'm going to fleece them. So I'm going to bite the bullet and plant tomatoes today, among all the many other jobs I've got to do. So 2 rows of tomatoes planted here, and I use these pots. They're 5-litre pots with the bottoms cut out. Let me just show you one. With the bottoms cut out, and I put them around the tomatoes, and then I can water into them. That way it stops all the water running out all over the place, so it contains it, especially when it's really hot weather and there's not exactly a lot of water, as you know, it's a precious thing, so we need to be careful. It's also good for the feeding. You know that the feed is going into the tomato roots and not all over the place. So that's the first 2 rows in, and I'll show you the others. Here is the second 2 rows, and I'm going to put a chart up of the different varieties. And I brought some beetroot down, and I'm going to actually interplant the beetroot into here as well. So I shall do that in a bit. I planted a couple of courgettes. They're just surviving, but I think I'm going to put some fleece over them today. These are 2 yellow courgettes. I've got some green ones on the go I haven't put in yet, but they'll do this row, and then we'll have a little chunk of courgettes, which will be plenty for us. And the very last of the tomatoes, 2 rows just here. I've run out of the pots, so I've got to cut some more pots and put those round. So I should be doing that over the weekend. But yeah, they're all in. This is the garlic that I planted in the autumn, and because we've had very little rain, this is the first time I've ever had garlic and it has no rust. Oh, well, there's one speck just there, but normally the garlic is just full of rust, and that's because we just haven't had any rain. And I did notice that my elephant garlic, when I was showing you the tomatoes, I'll walk you back up here again. There's my trays of beetroot that I'm going to interplant in some of the tomatoes. The elephant garlic have now got scapes, and scapes are these seed heads, and you don't want it to form seed heads because it takes away from fattening up the bulbs. So later on I shall come along and take all of those, and they are great on a barbecue. Chop them up, use them like garlic. I'm having a stir fry tonight, so I might just chop a couple up and throw into the stir fry. But they're great and very, very tasty. But don't leave them on unless you actually want some seeds, but because it will stop the bulbs from fattening up. I've decided that I'm going to put a little cluster of beetroot in between the tomatoes. Some spaces are a bit bigger than others, but yeah, I always hum and haw about that, but they should be fine because they can use the moisture from any of the water that comes out from when we water the tomatoes. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to do, and to do that I shall first of all water in between. I know it seems a waste of water, but if you don't, then when you try and put the plants in, the holes will just collapse and you can't do anything. And by the time these start to fatten up, the tomatoes should be quite tall, so it shouldn't get in the way at all. So I'm going to do that. Just there. So on the other side, except I'm just about to run out of water. I should get another watering can. So just finish off in between all the tomatoes here. The garlic in between at the back here will be coming out very soon. That's the elephant garlic. And that way it uses up some of the space, because you have to have quite a big path to get down to pick and maintain the tomatoes. So with the trusty dibber just in the middle, make a nice biggish hole, but you can see that the soil is already falling down, so I might have to give it a little bit more water. That's not holding at all. Let's have a look at this one. Well, that's a bit better. So there's a nice hole there. So I shall go all the way along and do one of those all the way along, and where it's collapsing I'll just give it a little bit more water and let it soak in. So the beetroot are planted in between the tomatoes, and they'll start fattening up and filling the space. These garlic will come out and we'll get a catch crop. If you watch my previous vlogs, particularly the ones where I'm sowing tomatoes, I told you I've sown far too many different varieties, and even so I didn't sow all of them, but there's still far too many. And this is my list of everything that I've planted in those rows of tomatoes that you've just seen. So I hope you can read that, and I still do have some spares, so I'm going to have to find somewhere to squeeze a few more in. But it's going to be a very interesting year to see what some of these look like and taste like. So I'm just making the holes for the aubergines. They're probably a little closer than I would like, but it's only a small greenhouse and I want to get a lot in here, so they may not be as big as the aubergines could be, but I'm using this bulb planter because they make perfect size holes. So I'm just going to go up to this corner, so I'm going to just put one more in, and maybe no, I think I'll just put one more in because I want to put some chilies in here. I've got some hot chilies that I want to put in here, so I'm going to just do those. And my aubergines are sitting there waiting to go in. I think I'm going to have to put some shade cloth on this greenhouse. It's only May, for heaven's sake. But anyway, it is what it is. We'll work with what we've got. So I'll do that. I'll plant the aubergines and I'll come back to you. Sorry, you can see my shadow. So these two are this variety. I think they're quite big aubergines. These are the Ping Tong, and this is an Asian variety, especially for stir fries. I've grown this once before but could never get the seeds and could never get it to grow, but I've managed to get some growing, so I've get out of the shadow. So I've actually put 3 of those in here. They're thin, they're long and thin, they're delicious. Because their skins are just a tiny bit thinner, they are a little bit sweeter as well, and softer when you stir fry them. So there's 3 of those. Just pop the label back until I mark them on my sheet. And then I've got 2 of Genie, 2 Genie and 1 Black Beauty, because you know what, I'll come back in a few days time and I'll think I cannot remember what varieties these are. I do want to put some more in here, but I just want to check my chili situation, because I've got a white one and another Black Beauty, so I might put those in there and then put chilies down here when I take out these lettuces, which will be very soon. Problems. And I'll also put chilies across here. So I'm just going to embed them in and I'll give them a drink. And I've decided to give them one of my cocktail drinks, which is a little bit of seaweed and fish emulsion into the holes before I cover them up. And hopefully I've got some bigger canes as well, but it's just too hot in here to do all of that work, so I'll just give them a drink, cover them up and come back when it's a little bit cooler. So that's it, the aubergines are in along this side, and giving them a good drink, and the cucumbers are coming along. I shall give them a little feed because the compost we grow things in these days hasn't got a lot of sustenance and I don't want them to struggle. I shall bring some chilies down to pop in as well. The cucumbers are looking good, but I'm going to give them a feed the next time I'm down, just because the stuff that you have in the pots don't have a lot of nutrients, so I shall give them a bit of a feed, and we will start cutting these lettuces now, ready for some more aubergines and chilies. I think we'll have some in here. Now look at these. This is where the pigeons have been munching them. Look at that. It's odd because they don't normally go for red lettuces. They've also had a nibble at the chard, and again, they don't normally nibble the red chard, but they have definitely been eating some of this. So I'm going to just maybe put a cage over them just to give them a fighting chance. But before I do that, I've got a tray of spring onions, so I'm going to just put some spring onions in here, and I've been reserving this area for, I've got some Swedes that I'm planting, so it's a bit of space for the Swedes, and I'm hoping to put some chilies or aubergines over on this side, but the weather cannot decide what it wants to do. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, baking hot in the day, and really too cold at night, and the poor plants are a bit desperate. Anyway, that's what gardening's about, the challenges. Anyway, get on with the job. Look, there's the spring onions and they're desperate to go in, so shut up, Teresa, water the patch, get them in, and on to the next job. So that's most of the spring onions in, and I've managed to plant 2 rows, although it is quite windy. and they are quite big plants, but they will do fine once they've taken. And we're due for some rain, so they will be watered in nicely. I have given them more water, but the rain will obviously help. I'm back at home in a roasting hot greenhouse, and I'm going to do some sowing. I've already sown some of these seeds before, but it's time to do a second sowing now. So I'm going to be doing some more Swift sweet corn and some Compass, and these are dwarf beans, and they're pencil thick. They're really fine green beans, and they are delicious. But if you've seen any of my other videos, they are a pain in the butt to pick because there's loads of them, and it's a bit of a back break. And if you've got a raised bed, then they're great, but when you're picking them from the ground, it's a bit of a pain. I'll show you me sowing these, because I'm not going to show you all of the beans because it's all much of the same. I'm also going to put in some more Cobra, which is a very popular bean as well, because it's not just for me, it's for the food bank. And I'm also going to sow some dwarf Balotti beans. I've got a few climbing Balotti beans in already, but I'm actually going to do a second sowing. I'm also going to put the last sowing of fennel in for now until the autumn. So we get a succession of fennel, which I love, and particularly on the barbecue, they're absolutely delicious. And I'm going to do some Lilia. We've got plenty of the white spring onions, but I didn't sow enough of these lovely red spring onions, so I should do some of those. So I've just filled a tray of, these are Charles Dowding's 60 seed trays from Containerwise, which I use to start off a lot of my seeds. So I've just filled that up with some multi-purpose compost and put in the Compass beans. And I do love them, but I know that when I'm actually harvesting them, I'll be complaining the whole time. I did sow a couple of trays earlier on. This is quite late for me for putting these in, because these come early before the runners and other beans, and I get an early crop. I did sow 2 trays of these, and I got about three seeds out of a whole tray twice. So I contacted Dobies, where I get these from, and they've just sent me some replacement seed now, so that's why I'm sowing this. And hopefully that problem will have gone. I don't really understand why, because I grow these seeds every year. But they were very kind and just replaced the 2 packets of seeds that I did order before. So let's, fingers crossed, let's hope that these all, or at least most of them, will germinate. So just push the seeds down, and I'll cover this up with some more compost, and then give it a nice light water, because with beans, a decent water, but a light water, it's not so bad now, but in the cold weather you can have seeds rotting off, but in this hot weather it doesn't tend to be such a problem. But anyway, I shall give it a nice good water, pop a label in, and let's hope that these ones germinate. So that's the Compass dwarf beans in. So I'm going to sow some sweet corn now, and if I'm sowing for myself, I use these Containerwise sort of deeper root trays. They do longer ones, which I have a number of and used in the past, but because compost now is just so expensive, this uses slightly longer, this uses slightly less compost, but you still get the long roots for planting, so it's still very good. But when I'm giving them away or selling them in our shop, then I use these 10 in a tray, because it doesn't matter if people don't bring them back or give them back to me. So for people who want me to grow some things for them, I use these, and just tell them to hurry up and get them in the ground. Really, don't leave them in the trays for too long. So somebody wants two of these, so I shall put those in first, and then I'll do my own ones. So again, it's just a mix of multi-purpose compost just in there. I don't push it down at this stage because I will get the seeds when I can find where I put them. So this variety is Swift, which I like a lot, but I've been trying out some other varieties as well from Moles, and it's good because you can buy them in larger quantities. So I should just pop these in quickly. I used to fiddle around and make sure that they were the right way up, putting them in, but I'm less fussy now, and they still come up. So, but old habits die hard, so I do still tend to put them in. And when I say right way up, you can see, hang on, you can see the seed, and that's the bottom, so it will go in that way, so that the yellow bit is at the top, like that. So just push those down slightly. Let's finish this tray. I must say, Swift has always been my favourite, but I'm noticing that the seed is not as good as it used to be. So I will be trialling some other varieties now, just to see if there's anything quite as good. But it's very hard to find a good sweet corn other than Swift. So just cover that up. I'll put some more compost on, and then just push it down slightly like this. And again, give them a water. Because this will help the seeds to swell, and because it is so warm and unseasonably warm, they should germinate fairly quickly. So I shall pop that up in the greenhouse and put a label on the 2 trays, and that'll be that. I reckon they'll be up in about 7 days. See, here's a tray of sweet corn. I put in about 5 or 6 days ago, and you can see that they're already up and germinating pretty quickly. So it's not going to take long until we're planting the sweet corn. So I'm going to sow a tray of Romanesco fennel, which is a second sowing this year before we start sowing in the autumn. So we give it a few months rest. So I'm not exactly sure that fennel likes the very hot weather. So I might just get this. Having said that, it is just so extraordinarily hot. I don't know whether it's going to like it or not. But anyway, I'm going to sow a tray of fennel in here, and I'll show you that in 2 seconds. So again, I use the 60 cell small cells, and just use the end of this dibber just to push the compost down like this. Go, and then just pop the seeds in. These seeds are quite big, so they're reasonably easy to handle. Like that, and they smell aniseed. It's a lovely smell. But I just pop one into each of these cells. With 2 drops in, I don't worry too much. It's like watching paint dry, isn't it? I do like fennel, especially grilled and poached. Oh, yum. Fish. I'm sure there are many ways that you can cook fennel. I'm not very keen on it raw. A lot of people put it into salads, but it's not my best favourite way of eating fennel, I must say. No pressure. That's a bit of a small seed. Anyway, there you go. And I always put my seeds back over the tray just in case you drop any. It doesn't matter if you get a second one. And then just cover that up. Add a little bit more of the compost. I'll do a little label, give that a drink, and that should be up soon enough. So that's quite a few of my seeds sown for today. I've come inside for a while because it's absolutely sweltering hot in the greenhouse. I do have a lot to do in terms of sowing some extra seeds, but I've also got some pricking out to do, so I thought that I would do that indoors, and I can just show you some of the things that I'm pricking out at the moment. So I've started to sow some of the early kind of autumn, I know it's not even summer, early autumn vegetables. And I'm trialing a few things. For example, this Savoy cabbage called Serpentine. I've not grown it before, but it's supposed to be a late summer variety. If you sow it now, you can get some Savoy cabbages, and we particularly like Savoy cabbages. And I've got some Dazzling Blue, which is like a Cavallonero kale. And what have I got? Oh, some Caraflex, which is the pointy cabbage, which I absolutely love. It's my favourite cabbage. And I've got some, what else have we got here? Oh, Winter Boar. That's another kale. It's not quite as curly as Curly Cow, but it's a nice one. It's recommended. Again, this is the first time. I've got some red cabbages here, and I've also got a red cabbage called Calibos, which is like a pointy red cabbage. And I also sowed some very, very old seed to see whether it would come up, and it hasn't. Alongside some all year round cauliflowers as well, and they haven't. I mean, there's one or two that's germinated, but they're so small it's not really worth the hassle. So I'm potting these up now to start getting the brassicas for late summer, early autumn ready, so that we get some nice red cabbages and things like that. So I'll just show you me doing those very briefly, and at least it's nice. And also I've got a fan, so that makes it extra helpful. I don't know what the temperature is, and I can't believe that it's May, because I haven't known temperatures like this. This is normally peak of summer. So I've got to try and keep these little cabbages cool, because it's not used to this very hot sun. Anyway, I shall get on with that and show you how I'm pricking out my brassicas. So I've already pricked out some of them, and I'm just sewing these now so that I can give them away. I'm just doing them in these seed trays. So picking up the brassica by its little leaf and popping it into the holes, and I put it in very deep, right up, if I can, right up to the beginning of the leaves. So I've just taken out a few here in a little wodge. So just gently just tease them apart. They will come apart. That's one. That's another one. And I'll keep this little one in reserve because I don't know if I've got enough space to plant that. So I'll just pop this one in. And when I have a lot of roots and things, I just put the stalk in first and then pop the roots in after. And then just fill it in like that. And I will give this a very good water. And I love this chopstick because it's got a flat end, which makes it absolutely brilliant for just firming down around the plant. So just popping it in to its little space, firming it down. And I'm going to put this, as a lump of something, I'm going to put this somewhere shady, not in full sun for a little while, just until it's sorted out its roots. Where's this other one? Here's another one. So that it doesn't get a lot of very strong direct sun, and give them a good drink and keep an eye on them. So there you go. Pop this one in. As I said, nice and deep. A couple more from the tray. There you go. Just separate them out, gently tease them apart. There they go. I think I've got, oh yeah, I have got another tray. So I'll separate all of these. And the last one to go in. There's a lump of something. That's the thing about compost now. You get lumps of all sorts of things in the compost. It's very hard to find a very good compost now. But you've got to use what you got and do the best you can. And Dazzling Blue, a little label. So that's another tray done. I shall give this a really, really good water. And as I said, pop it into somewhere shady. So I'm going to do a tray now of the Savoy cabbages. This is a little bit dry, and normally I'd probably give this a little bit of a water, but as I'm already here doing the job, I'm going to just carry on. It's holding its shape. If it didn't hold its shape, I'd definitely have to give it some water, otherwise it would all fall into the holes. I quite like this dibber. I was a bit dubious about it because I thought it would be too big, but I actually do like it. It's been useful for many things. This end, when I'm filled the seed trays out, I use this to push the compost down, and it makes a nice little shape for just popping the seeds in. So I use it for that as well. But this is a nice big dibber. It's very quick. So I'm just going to get these last few Calibris and pop into the tray. There's my little... It's all a bit dry at the moment. The sun was just drying out the compost. Again, I plant the seeds deep up to the leaves. And I'll do that for the rest of the tray. I'm sure you don't want me to see, watch me doing all of them. I'll bring you back when I've finished. Now, when you are pricking out brassicas, particularly brassicas, but also tomatoes, always make sure you have a label, because at this stage, everything looks alike. And as much as you think, oh, I remember what that is, you never do. So I have learnt by my own mistakes to make sure that you've done a label to pop in. And you know, even now, I sometimes forget, or I've run out of labels and I think, oh, I'll do that in a minute. And then I've forgotten what it was. So always have your labels to hand. And now I'm going to take these. I didn't have enough for a full tray here. I'm contemplating popping something else or having a little space in case I need to pop something else in. But for now, I'm going to take these out into the shade and give everything a good drink so they can start picking themselves up and looking very nice. So I hope you've enjoyed today's vlog. Don't forget to subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. And wherever you are and whatever you're doing, happy growing. Take care now. Bye-bye.